Good afternoon. This is Blu Laker. Yeah. Okay. All right. Now this is Blu Laker, and this is Radio Tribune here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we're going to be talking about a couple things. One of those is the rail project that they've been trying to get on here for a very, very long time. And same people involved, same people, and all it is another version of the Desert Express. So I want to tell you that this is Blu Laker, this is Radio Tribune, and the name of my show is Cobra USA. And so, but as I mentioned to you, it's been in the news lately that the rail project that they've been trying to do under the Desert Express for years, under the direction of Harry Reid and Associates, is finally looking like they're going to get the okay. Problem is that there are many, many problems, and it doesn't really address what we need. Now, it would be one thing if we knew that the cost of riding a high-speed rail would be effective or not, or whether it would just tend to shy people away. After all, when you come up in a car, you can bring 4 or 5 people with you. Whereas with you on the train, you have to pay for every seat. So these facts really need to be taken into consideration, and they need to be taken into consideration for those who would approve a project that's going to put an embarrassing cost on a family of 4 or 5 people, to where they have to decide either not to take the train or not to come to Las Vegas. So there is a benefit, and in some cases there's reasons not to do it. Well, you really have to take a look at this thing in its context and the cost of maintenance and operation. Those costs and operations, and we don't know, even though the projected price of this is $1 billion, we have to say, what is that going to get? And is there going to be return on investment? And frankly, in the overall picture of what has been proposed, this is a loser. It's a loser for many reasons, because they say their comprehensive study shows that people would drive to Victorville to get on the train to come into Las Vegas and then have to rent a car or a taxi cab or whatever, and that it would avoid the congestion on the highway. Well, true. If you could cut down 25 to 50% of the traffic on the freeway, then you wouldn't have bumper-to-bumper traffic. Now, as we have seen, our demands are getting greater and greater by the day. And why? Well, because we have new drivers that are going on the road, whether those new drivers be people of reaching their age limitation, 18, 21, and so forth. Also means as we put more drivers on the highway, that we're adding to the congestion as opposed to relieving the congestion. So when we say we're going to have a fix, and this is going to be one of the big fixes, there's too many reasons to disbelieve that theory. Again, the amount of time that is necessary to build a development like this, and they're projecting 5 to 20 years, is long. It's just way out of proportion in terms of getting those things accomplished. So what it means is that we need to think about other alternatives and to address the issues that are at hand. Yes, we know about the environmental. We know that Harry Reid and his group, Marinella and everybody else involved in the Desert Express, which has, in the eyes of the public, failed. And the reason it's failed is because of the cost of the infrastructure. It's not just the train. It is the power to run the train with as well. Now, they're supposed to be electric. which means that the infrastructure for electricity has to be there as well. That's right, more transmission lines. And if that's the case, how is that accounted for in the cost of the project? So we're going to take this bit by bit. And they claim it's going to be a high speed. High speed for how long? And they estimate the top speed at 150 miles an hour. Well, we already have trains that do 125 miles an hour, but their average speed is 80 miles an hour. So if the average speed is 80 miles an hour, then 150 mile an hour possibility is really not that great. On the other hand, if you were able to travel at 150 miles across in that journey, that probably would mean something and that would be more beneficial. But to suggest that the 150 mile an hour top speed is going to be applied for the entire route is just flat ridiculous, because there are areas and grades that need to be climbed. Normally, a conventional train can only go or can only travel up a 3.5% grade. That's why in the original proposal by Harry Reid and Associates, they had to stop in Victorville because the grade from Victorville down is 7%. That's up and down, 7%. So if you take that into consideration, it wasn't that they couldn't get to Victorville. It's just they couldn't get beyond Victorville, or they couldn't get from LA and all of the cities and towns along the way in Southern California. They would not be able to climb the 7% grade at Cajon. So that has been an obstacle. So they said, well, okay, well, we'll just change that, and we'll run over here to Palmdale, which is almost 100 miles, over to the, let's see, that would be the east, I believe. Oh, no, excuse me. Palmdale would be west, and it's about 100 miles, and the terrain is fairly rough. It's not all level, but it's not 7% either. So they could, but if you're saying, well, okay, how much of the time will they be able to run at 150 miles an hour? You can say, well, maybe 20% of the time. Well, 20% of the time isn't very much in the comparative of the whole. Again, people look at cost and convenience. That's why they're driving their cars, is because the cost of them driving a car with 4 or 5 passengers going in one direction might be $40, $50. So that's about $10 a piece. Well, $10 a piece is not 125. 125 times 5 is $500 for a family. Now, I'm not sure that 125 is a round trip ticket or just one way. These are projections, of course, and we have always found out the projections that have been forthcoming have been wrong, substantially wrong. So why should this be any different? Now, I said 1 billion, but look, apparently, according to the information in the Review Journal, it's 7 billion rail project that has been under consideration for more than a decade. Marinell discussed the study, the Trump administration's role, and the Raiders in an exclusive interview last week with the Review Journal. There is no question about it. If the Raiders come to Las Vegas, there will be increased traffic to come see the games. Well, let's talk about some of the issues that already exist in Las Vegas relative to the transportation factor. Right now, on the weekends, people coming in from LA, depending on the time that they drive, can expect bumper-to-bumper traffic with waits 2 or 3 hours, in some cases even more. And on the return side, they have the same issue. So when we look at the reality of a rail project and what our needs are going to be in terms of transportation getting to and from Las Vegas, is it in fact a viable option for us to do that? Is it limited, and is it limited especially because of the cost? Now, there's another reason that we need to look at here with respect to the transportation, and that is people coming into Las Vegas, even when they are driving, can go to a resort that's charging $25 to $50 a day to park the car. Well, that's just another bump in the road, because as people start to add the cost of going to and from Las Vegas, and they say, well, I've got parking to deal with, I have time, and coming from Los Angeles, you can expect a minimum of a 4-hour trip, 5, 6, 7, or 8 hours in travel. So if you got this time lapse, I mean, it's one thing if you have videos and so forth in your car, and you can utilize that time, or at least entertain the children while you're driving, but it still gets back to the factors. The availability and cost of transportation is a major consideration, whether it be driving or going on a train. Now, if they could get the cost down to bringing a family of 5 into, say, $100, and let's be so bold as to say $100 round trip, now you're equating with the cost of driving. Because if it was $150 for a family of 5, it's $30 a piece, round trip. That would be a bargain because you don't have to drive it, you don't have to worry about the insurance or wrecks, or in most cases, not having to call an ambulance. But that's not what we're seeing, and it's a shame, because we so often throw money away. Case in point, Obamacare. How many millions or billions of dollars have been wasted with Obamacare? Where is that project going? And what are we going to do about it? Well, first of all, it's not going anywhere because the costs are beyond reason for most people. Well, what are we going to do? And we're talking about Obamacare. And what are we going to do to replace Obamacare with a sustainable health insurance program with lower fees and more benefits? Oh, sounds like Mission Impossible, doesn't it? It's not. It is not. However, if people don't start using their head, all we're doing is adding to the problem. Greater costs, greater deficit, more taxes, more fees, and less convenience. So that's what we need to really think about when we're putting these projects together. Do we need more roads? Yes. Do we need more debt? No. Oh, interesting question, Mr. Blue. If you don't want more debt, more expenses, and you don't want to tax the people more, then how do you get around that problem? I would ask you that are listening to this radio program to tell me what you think, but I don't believe that I could take that many calls to really wind up with a substantial number of claims to that end. I think what I have to do is project and see if what I propose makes sense. Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Sense, common sense, number one. Number two, financial sense, number two. Number three, convenience, safety, affordability. Those are the keys to a successful venture. Well, yeah, but the only thing that we can do on the train is we can sell them hot dogs, peanut butter, and who knows what else in a ticket. And maybe some of those people won't show up, so we'll eat that too. But the cost and expense associated with maintaining the system is there. It's ongoing. Whether it be having in a normal train situation wheels and rails that need to be replaced every 7 years. Where's the cost of that, and does it show in the projections? No, it doesn't, because it's another hidden fact. So the projection of $7 to $8 billion for this proposed rail is clearly not all-inclusive. It doesn't reflect the truth and doesn't show the projected amount of income that's going to be necessary to keep it in existence. What's more, we can expect more rate increases as we go. For example, I already mentioned that some of the resorts are going to be charging $28 to park your car a day here in Las Vegas. $28 a day to park your car. Now that's today. Oh, you can remember, I'm sure, that we haven't had to pay parking fees for 20 or 30 years. And then all of a sudden, we wind up with these additional costs that are going to influence the people's ability to travel. Unfortunately, Los Angeles, Long Beach, those Newport Beach and those areas in Southern California are 272 to 300 miles each in each way. And that's got to be taken into consideration when you are planning and trying to have a greater audience. It is true that our visitor count has gone up tremendously, and that there are people willing to pay the additional price to come into Las Vegas. But how deep are their pockets? Can they continue to do that on a daily basis? Are they going to be limited to maybe 1 or 2 trips a year? And is how that going to affect the overall business community here in Las Vegas? Do we need more casinos? The more casinos we have, the more competition we have. We're running out of space. Maybe we can take it all the way from Las Vegas into the state line, the California state line, and just have nothing but hotels and casinos. But the problem with that is then you take away the access that some of the casinos on the Strip have. I say take it away because a lot of these people will say, why would I want to go all the way into Las Vegas to go to hotels and casinos along Sahara and Tropicana and Flamingo, when I can stay out here in a very nice hotel for a third of the money, not have as much of a drive, not have to worry about parking or the cost of parking, and pretty much enjoy the same benefits that I would get in Las Vegas. There are things, and there are exceptions, of course, but there's always ways around those exceptions. The exceptions, of course, would be like entertainment, like boxing matches, like polo, or like the rodeos. Those are exceptions, and they are held, generally speaking, in very close proximity to the Strip. And if we develop other facilities that are closer to the state line, how much traffic is that going to take away from, say, the South Point? Is it your opinion that another rodeo center or facility that houses 1,200 horses can't be built or won't be built? Because you see, once people recognize the need or the inability to get certain dates to perform what their venue is, then they look for alternatives. And if those alternatives happen to be less expensive, more available, and closer to their home state, then chances are they're going to take the easiest route. But we were talking about the project. We're talking about the rail project itself. Let me explain some of the things that are important in determining which transportation system would be the best. First of all, as I mentioned, there's great maintenance involved with trains. That is to say, the wheels, I'm talking about the rails that they ride on, fuel, because they all use electric motors, but those electric motors require the generation of electricity, which is done through diesel generation of electricity. So that means that they have to carry fuel. Well, there again, the cost of fuel, although compared to a few years ago, is not that great yet. But again, the supply and demand causes the price fluctuations to occur. We don't know for the near future that our reserves of diesel and gasoline are adequate for the needs of this coming generation or two. And yes, we have developed alternative energy sources, but those alternative energy sources are not being utilized to the highest and best efficiency known. It is true that electricity is about 15% of what it takes to run a gasoline or diesel engine. 15%. It means that you can travel with electricity for about 12 cents a mile. About 12 cents a mile. How's that compare to gasoline? At $1.02, well, let's call it $3 a gallon. It's close to $3 a gallon now. Of course, it's going to depend on the mileage that your vehicle gets, but it's not going to be 12 to 13 cents a mile. At any rate, so fuel is an important consideration for the future. Versatility, convenience are other factors, let's suppose, for example, that one of the main stops is in Victorville, because you see, from Victorville, in and out of Victorville, coming from Las Vegas, you're naturally headed south. And then all of a sudden you have to go west to Palmdale. And then, after Palmdale, you have to come back towards the east or southeast of California in order to get to the beach communities. In other words, you're putting a dog leg in between Victorville and, say, Newport Beach. Even Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is not right next to Palmdale. My memory serves me correctly, it's about 70, 80 miles away. So let's just assume that in the dog leg from Victorville to Palmdale is, say, 80 or 90 miles, and then from Palmdale to Los Angeles or into Newport Beach, etc., is another 80 or 90 miles. So if you've added 140 to 180 miles to the trip in one direction, what have you gained? You've gained the expense of that additional travel, number one. You've gained the time length, number two. So the shortest distance between 2 points is always a straight line, but that's not possible with existing train technology. And it won't be possible primarily because of not having the ability to go up a grade more than 3.5%. 5, 6, 7% is out of the question. If those are not taken into consideration, if they're not made, that information is not made available to the people who are trying to put this together, the system, then it's flawed and can't work, adding additional cost and burden. And why is Marinella and Harry Reid and Sig Rogish bound and determined that despite all of the inconveniences, cost, and so forth associated with their proposed high rail system, that it's going to work? From my perspective, this is Blu Laker. There is a better way. There is a way for us to have the system pay for itself. But Harry Reid doesn't want that to happen, because he doesn't have a piece of that, and it's all about how much Harry Reid can take. How do you think that he's able to have had the right-of-ways and so forth secured? How? And why? At what cost? And for who? Those are the questions that need to be answered. But we're not getting straight answers from this group. This project, in my opinion, has been, through the investigation of other people involved, especially the citizens, have said, no, it's not going to work. We're not going to rent a car once we get here. We're not interested in that. We're not interested in taking taxi cabs, because taxi cabs are expensive too. They're not going directly to the hotels. We don't want to change trains. We don't want to have to carry our luggage around. These are the considerations that are the problems, in addition to the ones that I've just mentioned. Now, the authorities the authoritative leaders, I should say, recognized the significance of the report when they announced it March 2nd. This confirms that the rail connection component of the high desert corridor will add merit to attract private investors and builders and give credibility that will justify public support. Wrong. The public hasn't supported it at all. And when they find out it's nothing more than a conventional chain or train, they're going to. It's just like the presidential election. We wanted change in the administration, and we got it. But we had to fight, and all the odds and all the polls indicated that they were wrong, that this man, Donald Trump, would never make it through the primary alone, yet, or even to be elected as President of the United States. Because it was the will of the people with enough intelligence to understand that the two-party system does not work, and that we need someone with independent thoughts and aspirations. And that's what we got with Donald Trump. So when it comes to political correctness, that's something that is passé anymore. We're not looking for political correctness. We're looking for innovation, creativity that makes sense and pays for itself. So while this is the first run on this rail project, it is not the last, because there's so much more information that you need to know about in order to make an intelligent decision and influence the people in the political and financial circles that will recognize that this proposal is dead on arrival. This is Blu Laker. This is Radio Tribune in Las Vegas, Nevada. We're located at 717 South 9th Street. That's like Charleston and 9th. And you're welcome to come in or call us in order to give us your opinion. Call-in number is 702-743-8297. That's 743-8297. And my name is Blu Laker. Have a great day. Get ready for an exciting weekend. I'm sure there's going to be one. And we look forward to talking with you at your convenience. Have your voice heard. You can be part of the solution and not part of the problem. Have a great day. Okay. You gotta shut off.